morning, everyone. How many of you have done a probate transaction in the past? Great, good. So a few of you. How many have listed a probate property on the listing side? And what about representing a buyer on the buyer side? Okay, excellent. So here's the thing that's going on in our market. With real estate, how many of you were involved in real estate prior to the mortgage meltdown? Just a handful? With real estate, there's constantly changing cycles. I got in the business in 1993. It was the end of the crash in the late 80s. Then we had a refi boom, business was growing, things were getting better, and then 97, 98 kind of slowed things down, started picking up again. But that was a cycle that had changed, and business slowed down for a lot of people during that time period. Once 99 and 2000 started, it started picking up again. And how many of you were involved in the business in the early 2000s? Remember back then, everyone could qualify. If you could fog a mirror, you could qualify for your loan. Every property would sell. If I sold my house for $50,000, the one across the street would sell for $100,000 more than my house because it was just that everyone could qualify. Changed the market. And then the mortgage crash, the mortgage meltdown. I don't know about you guys, I lost 75% of my income. I do title insurance, I work for Lawyers Title. I lost 75% of my income during that time period. Did anybody experience that? No? You guys didn't have a loss of income? Oh, okay, a few of you did. All right. So we went through that. With every market, things changed. After the mortgage meltdown, 90% of properties on the market were either an REO or a short sale. Did anybody have to learn how to do short sales? Yep. Did anybody say, wow, why can't I get those REOs and have all those listings instead of that REO agent that has them? We all went through these things. Every change in cycle creates a change in our business, doesn't it? Creates something new that we have to learn. I've been doing presentations on probate for real estate agents for years, for over a decade now. And one thing is different now than has always been the case. What I've always talked about is the reason to do probate real estate is there are 76 million baby boomers, 10,000 people a day are turning 65. Probate properties are typically free and clear or have a ton of equity. But there's something very different now, and this is very important for our marketplace. Anyone heard of the iBuyer? Raise your hand if you've heard of the iBuyer. They're saying in the future, listing presentations are going to look like this. Instead of talking about what I'm going to list your property for and what percentage the commission will be and what I can sell the property for, the listing will start out like this. I have a buyer that will buy your house right now at this price. It is a hedge fund, they're buying with all cash. Do you want this offer? And they say a large percentage of people, especially millennials, will say, yes, I want that offer. That will be a 1% listing for the agent. The reason why is there are a lot of attacks on our market. You guys know who Gary Keller is? Founder of Keller Williams, very important and smart real estate mind. Gary Keller said the fight for real estate, in February, in his vision speech, the fight for real estate is on right now. You see, there's technology that is changing real estate. Real estate is one of the only service industries that has not had a major impact, that has not had a major change. Look at taxis. You guys remember taxis? Remember they used to be those yellow cars? No one uses that anymore, right? It's Uber or Lyft. How many have used Uber or Lyft in the last month? How many have used a taxi in the last year? Right? One. Okay? It's not very common. Uber changed the scope of that business. What about travel agencies? Remember prior to 1996, there was a brick and mortar building that you would walk in and you would buy a ticket to for a plane somewhere. What changed that industry? Expedia. Expedia was founded in 1996. That changed it. So those of us that are in the real estate profession, there's a big change. And it's like we're sitting here in a travel agency convention in 1996. And down the street, Expedia is being started. It's like we're sitting here in 2009 in a taxi driver's convention. And down the street, they're starting Uber. I think I said Uber before. Expedia was being started. Now Uber's being started. A major change is coming in our industry. What probate real estate does, probate is a market that is caused by the huge number of baby boomers. We know there were 76 million baby boomers born during the baby boom. Baby boomers control about, first number I heard was 67% of US wealth. The most recent number I heard was 77% of US wealth is controlled by baby boomers. The probate market, hey, has there been a solution to death yet? No. We can solve high blood pressure, we can send a man to the moon, we haven't solved death. There's no one that's living forever. The point is, people are going to continue to die, and that's what causes probate and trust sales. What's powerful about this market is for the next 10 years, this is not going away. Matter of fact, it's really never going away because people are always going to die. So if you want a market where it's not going to shift, the next cycle is not going to change and make this go away. I'm not going to have to learn something totally new 3-4 years from now, or maybe next year if the rates go up 2 points. Probate is that market. So I'm going to share a few things in this presentation with you. First of all, I'll share a little bit about probate. So you'll learn a little bit more about probate right now. Hopefully those of you in the room who've done some, you'll learn some things from me today. I'm going to talk about why it's important. I've kind of already done that. It's very important for us in real estate because this gives us a niche that requires an additional level of skill and knowledge that is protected. How many of you know Zillow Instant Offers is out there? Have you guys heard about that? Zillow got a broker's license this year. Zillow is in the top 50 websites in the world. Zillow for real estate is more widely recognized than Coldwell Banker, Berkshire Hathaway, Keller Williams, RE/MAX, all of these companies combined. People go to Zillow as the real estate place. Zillow just got their broker's license. They started Zillow Instant Offers. In other words, hey, Mr. Customer, don't list your property. We can buy your house right now. We'll give you up to 15 hedge fund offers. Do any of you work with investors? Raise your hand if you work with investors. Can your investors compete with a hedge fund? Their cash is very long and very strong. It's a very different marketplace. It's a very different amount of competition. Redfin started Redfin Now, another way that they give you an offer instantly. Who's heard of the app called Reali, R-E-A-L-I? Reali is an app. On this app, basically the app sells the property for you. So a seller can use Reali, they don't get a real estate agent. The app puts these beacons throughout the house. So they get these beacons and they go throughout the house. So now, as a buyer, when I walk in the kitchen, it's my phone, which is logging into that beacon, says, oh, you're in the kitchen. The cabinets were put in 2015. Those are mahogany cabinets. The flooring is travertine from Italy, blah, blah, blah. It sells the house as I walk through the house. Reali has been very successful in the San Francisco market, and earlier this year got a $5 million investment to bring Reali to Southern California. These are all the things that are happening, and the list goes on. I can talk about Home Bay, I can talk about Purple Bricks. The list goes on and on about the challenges to our industry. But here's the thing. Do you think that Zillow Instant Offers or an app is going to be able to sell a tall building, one of the skyscrapers in downtown LA? No, why not? Because it's more complex. It's a much different transaction that requires much more knowledge and skill for the people involved. It's the same way with probate. It requires an additional level of knowledge and skill than a regular transaction does. So increasing your knowledge and skill in probate can help you very much in the future. So I'll talk about how to increase that in just a moment. So what is probate? Probate is the legal term which basically we say someone died, we take their assets, okay? We say here's all the things that they owned, we take all the people that they owe money to, we say here's who needs to be paid off, we pay those things off and give their leftover money to their heirs. It's a court process. But for real estate, probate is kind of this umbrella. It includes probate, it includes trust properties, it includes grandma added her grandson on title, she died, it's not a probate, but we have a deceased party sale. So it's kind of this umbrella that includes other things besides just the court-ordered probate process. How many of you know the two different types of probate sales that we do in California? Raise your hand if you know. No one? Okay, tell me, what are the two types of probate sales? No confirmation and court confirmation. There's a court confirmation sale and a no confirmation sale. The non-court confirmation sale is just like a regular sale. It's so funny, I know people that say, oh, I avoid probate, it's too much hassle, it's too much problem, I don't want to deal with the court. A non-confirmation sale, there's like 3 extra documents we need. It's very simple, very much like a regular sale. The court confirmation sale, however, is very procedural, and there's some different things that you have to know about. But for you as an agent, it's not a big deal. Is 5% of $500,000 the same as 5% of $500,000? Someone in the back is going, didn't he just say the same thing twice? Yeah, I did. 5% of the sales price is 5% of the sales price, regardless of if it has to go through court confirmation or not. And if you're the listing agent that secured that 5% listing, done deal. Yeah, there's going to be an overbid process, but it doesn't bother you because you got your 5% listing. So the key is, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to shy away from just because it's maybe going to be a court confirmation sale. So I already mentioned some of the things on this slide. I wrote this slide a very long time ago. The most recent numbers are 77% of U.S. wealth is controlled by baby boomers. Here's an interesting statistic. The California Department of Health Services says a baby boomer dies every 57.9 seconds. So I'm sorry, we've lost about 7 of them since I've been talking, but unfortunately that's the case. But you know, it's not going away. People are going to continue to die. I've done some statistics. This is what's interesting. What percentage of properties do you think have a trust? Well, I just gave away one of my questions. I was going to ask you, what's the main way to avoid trust? Okay, so prior to 2016, that was the only way to avoid, if I was an individual person, the only way to avoid probate was to have my property in trust. Do you guys know what happened in January 2016? Oh my gosh. A room for the real estate agents, and you guys don't know the answer to the question? What changed, what law passed in January 2016 that gave us a different way to avoid probate?
POD.
What is it?
POD.
Okay, that's close. POD is what you have on a bank account. When I die, pay the money to my heir, pay on death. Oh, you said TOD, yes. Transfer on death deed. The revocable transfer on death deed, RTDD or the TOD. Revocable transfer on death deed. It means I can state on my vesting on my house, I can deed the property and say, when I die, give the property to my heirs, and I name them. First and foremost, as real estate agents, it's good for you to know about this. Do not advise anyone about it. I wrote my book. My book was published in October 2015, and right before publishing in September, I found out that the TOD was passed and it was going to become law January 2016 here in California. I had to update my book. That's the reason I remember these dates, otherwise it would be all fuzzy. But here's what's important about that. Back then I thought, this is the best thing ever. Everyone's going to do this on this property. This is awesome. They can avoid a probate without having a trust. But then when I read the law, I saw there's some potential holes and issues. As a title company, there are potential holes and issues. I see Nancy in the room. She works for Lawyers Title as well. Hi, Nancy. We both work at Lawyers Title. I do a lot of probate business at Lawyers. But here's the key. When I read it and talked with some of the, like our ATO and stuff at our company, there are some issues potentially with it. I did a presentation in 2015 to a group of attorneys, and they found other issues that I hadn't even thought of because they're attorneys. They said, well, we would sue and fight this law with this. So here's the challenge with the revocable transfer on death deed. There's no case law. There's no law. It's only a 2-year-old law. So there has not been someone who died having this having this deed on their property, and then there's been a lawsuit because people are fighting over it to determine what happens if all these different variables are the case. So the reason I let you guys know that is, do not advise clients about it. Tell them to get advice from an attorney. Very, very important that they get advice from an attorney on a revocable transfer on death deed. So here's why that's important. Besides the revocable transfer on death deeds, what percentage of homes do you think have a trust, the other way to avoid probate? Someone throw out a number. What percentage of homes in this area do you think have a trust? 20%, 25? Someone said 5? 15. Okay, so in this area, I checked Temple City, Rosemead, San Gabriel, and Alhambra. The highest was 14.6%. The lowest was 12.9%. I have run numbers like this doing presentations all over the county of LA and even out in Riverside. The lowest area I found was Cerritos. I saw someone had a listing in Cerritos. Cerritos was 2%. The highest area I found was Larchmont. You guys know where Larchmont is? Like kind of mid-city LA, Wilshire and Highland, kind of, it's a little over from Wilshire and Highland, yeah, near Hancock Park, exactly. That area was 22%. That was the highest I've found. I haven't run every area of LA, but that was the highest zip code I found for properties with a trust. So what that means is, generally speaking, 80 or 85% of properties in this area, 85% of properties would go to probate if the owner died. That's a high percentage, isn't it? Yeah. It's something that we all should know about. So, I talked about how you can avoid probate. I talked about having a trust and revocable transfer on death deed. Here in this area, we're roughly looking at 15% of homes that would go to probate if the owner died. Here's what's important though. It's not whether they have a probate, whether they have a trust or not, that determines the sale. Oftentimes, it is the fact that there's a death. There's been many transactions where I've done the title on them and the owner died. Let's say it was the husband was the only one on title, the wife was there, has to go through probate, and she doesn't sell because she's going to live in it. And I've had others where the husband and wife are on title, so there is no probate. The husband dies, and she is selling. It's the death of one of the owners oftentimes that triggers a sale. The death of an owner is a big trigger. So whether they have a trust or not, that's why I say probate is this umbrella. If people know you as the probate expert, they call you just because there was a death. Because the average person out there doesn't understand the difference between a trust and a probate. They don't know what the difference is between an executor and an administrator. They don't know the difference between an administrator and a trustee. They just know someone died. Oh, Joe's the probate king of real estate. I should call Joe. I know because that's what happens to me. I get people that call me from all over the county and they say, hey, I have this situation, it's a probate. John from this other real estate company that went to one of your workshops, he told me I should call you. And they call and I help them with their situation. Real estate agents have the same solution for people if you establish yourself as the probate expert. So it's the death. Like I said earlier, there's no solution for death. People are gonna still die. So it's kind of a morbid thing for us to talk about a little bit, but it's a cool thing when it comes to probate and establishing yourself as a probate expert. So regardless of how they hold title, I have people all the time that'll call and say, hey, Kevin, the father, the owner of this property, he died, it's gotta be a probate, can you help me with this? I go pull up title, no, his wife was on title. They were joint tenants. File an affidavit of death, joint tenant, and the wife can sign. They're like, great, no probate, no expenses, none of that stuff, that's awesome. Other times I've had transactions where we were in escrow, close to closing, and they realized, well, John and Jane Doe are on title. And John signed our listing agreement and everything, well, where's Jane? Oh, she died. Oh, I didn't realize that. Or maybe only Jane was on title and she died. Now we have to go to probate. I've had transactions that were in escrow, thinking they were closing in 30 days, and then they find out, we have to probate this property. So it's important to know how they hold title right up front. Hopefully you do that right when you get your listing, before you sign your listing agreement. But sometimes it slips through the cracks and people don't realize that another person that's there is not alive, and we have to probate that property. Okay, so here's what I teach. This was a very short, I hope I'm staying within my 20 minutes that I had to speak. I teach 3 different workshops. One is called 7 Ways to Make Money in Probate Real Estate. One is called Probate Training. The 7 Ways to Make Money in Probate Real Estate talk about 7, really 8 different ways that agents, when they're talking with clients and dealing with them, even if you don't even get a listing, you can still benefit financially or help the family and benefit financially from the fact that they have to do a probate or deal with whatever type of situation they're dealing with. That's what 7 Ways to Make Money in Probate Real Estate is all about. I teach a class I call Probate Training. Probate Training is training you on the process of probate. So you'll understand the court confirmation sale. So you'll understand the non-court confirmation sale. You'll understand the differences there. I cover a little bit about the revocable transfer on death deed in that training as well. So those are 2 of the workshops that are most popular that I do. I also do a more advanced workshop. This one is about dealing with probate leads or dealing with the actual client and how you can get that client to work with you. Because it's funny, I have a client, he's doing very, very well. He just got up to 10 active listings right now, which, the market has been slowing down. For an agent that's only been an agent for a year and 3 months, having 10 listings is not too shabby. And it's because he's very active. Almost all of his listings are probate. And one of the things that he's excellent at is contacting the clients. And he's told me 3 stories recently of listings that he got between July and August. And they said, I had 50 phone calls, but I chose you. One guy said, I'm only talking to 1 agent. And he was at his listing appointment, so that means it's him. So it's because he's good at establishing himself as different. So I teach a more advanced workshop that helps you stand out from the crowd and be the person that they go, this is the one I want to work with. This person knows more, understands more, and they're helping them more than anyone else. So in my workshops, I teach how to find probate properties, how to close the sale, if we're doing the probate training, how to close it as a sale, what documents you need, what disclosures are required, what disclosures are not required, and that sort of stuff. I go over the details there so you can do a transaction. And then I teach how to put more money in your pocket via this probate niche. That's the most important thing. So I think if I have time for a couple questions, I'll take. Does anyone have a question about probate or dealing a probate transaction? Wow, I must have been so good that there was no question. That's awesome. Well, hey, to thank you guys for having me at the board. If you want me to come back and do one of my workshops, let Carla and the folks here know, and I will come back. There is a red box that is put on the front table here. We're going to put one on each side. I'm going to raffle off a Starbucks gift card and 2 copies of my book. I wrote a book called Probate Real Estate Sales 101. I'm going to raffle those off. If you put your business card in there, we'll draw it at the end, and that's there. I will be here till the end of the meeting. If you want to talk to me or have questions, we'll be probably right outside or in the back, and we'll be here. So thank you for having me, and thanks a lot.